get this meeting started.
So Jessica's got to start recording.
Okay, you ready, Jessica? Okay, call this meeting of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, District Advisory Committee meeting into order for September 13th, 2023. Real quick, Jessica, can we do a roll call?
Yeah. Let me see it.
No,
Hallie's not here now.
David,
here.
Jeanette.
No.
It's not, she's pretty on my screen, but I'll see her on that one.
I'm here. Jeanette's here. Thank you.
Joel,
Present.
Katie, present. Lisa, here. Mark,
Here.
Lucy,
Here.
Ryan,
Here.
and then Grover and Maureen are both absent.
And Hallie showed up.
Hallie.
And I just.
Okay. So, DAC, first we'll get to item number 2, action item, approval of the DAC meeting summary. I do have a few items that we're thinking of going right. Would like to change, anybody else? I am actually with District 2. Or area 2.
Sub area 2.
Sub area 2, yeah, and in here somewhere it's still sub area 3. And I think that was the only. Oh, and then there was public comment from Thelma Hagenmuller. And did she mention Parks Foundation? I just want to make sure that.
That was her pitch, I thought.
Yeah,
Was
is it possible?
saying we needed to,
Yeah, is it possible just to add that, like Parks
Yep.
Foundation?
We will update that.
Okay, and does anybody else have any changes or anything to the minutes? Siri, Jeanette, you're good?
I'm good.
So do I just approve the minutes then? Okay, minutes are approved. Woohoo, it's okay.
As amended.
Okay, agenda item number 1, proposed user fee changes. Mike.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna have Candy, are you gonna come up here also? So we're just opening the conversation on the discussion of user fees. We have a cost recovery goal that was set many years ago by a prior board of directors and has been in place for many years. Last time it was.
it's like 2016.
Yeah, so going on at least 6 or 8 years that we've had this cost recovery goal. I got here in 2021, right after COVID. During COVID, the costs to do business did not stagnate, though our attendance did. The costs continued to go up during COVID, and we did not do any regular updates to our fees and charges. As we came out of COVID, that has not really changed much. We did a small change to a few fees last year through the board of directors during budget time. But Candy and I have recognized that there needed to be a bit more of a comprehensive adjustment to our fees. As you see in I believe it was the staff report on here. Sorry. Just a few things that have gone up, you know, we're looking at COLA adjustments, utility expenses, material costs. The minimum wage alone has gone from $13.25 up to $15.45. We're looking at huge increases to utilities, gas by as much as 25%, water and sewer a little bit less. So we need to open the discussion with the board of directors, and we wanted to start with you all on looking at fee adjustments to keep up with cost of increases, really. Because we haven't said anything up to this point, because really we're starting to reach the critical point where some of our programs, what we're collecting is not enough to even recover the basic costs, let alone reaching any of our goals. It's not anybody's fault. It's really a product of just over the last few years. We had COVID, then we are trying to come out of that. And so we wanted to, again, just open the conversation. Why are we talking about it now versus at budget time? Well, there was a lot of other chatter going on at budget time. And to be quite honest, trying to do a budget or a fee increase at budget time is kind of counter seasonal to us. If it gets approved July 1st, those fees for the summer aren't going to be instituted until the following year, which oftentimes means that we're already behind. So it makes more sense to bring it to the board in the off season, in the fall, which is why we're starting this conversation now, to then be able to, if we could get it approved by, say, November, or even December, we have that ability to set our fall or our winter, spring, and then definitively we have our summer rates set. So that's kind of why we're doing it off season, not as part of the budget, because really timing wise, it makes a lot more sense from a planning perspective and for budget forecasting perspective. So I want to change my recommendation that was in here, where I was asking for this group to approve. What I'd really like to do is just have you all ask questions if there's anything that's not clear. We gave you a lot of spreadsheets and things to look at. But what I want to really say overall is that these are fairly minor incremental increases for, I would say, almost 100% of the items. There's a few that percentage wise they look large, but if you have any concern of that, or just the general idea of raising fees in the, you know, fill in the blank, this current economy, this time of year, whatever, we'd like to know that. I believe the intent is we're trying to set up a policy meeting with the board of directors at some point in October to have this discussion with them. But I'm not necessarily looking, like I said, I'm not asking for you all to make a recommendation at this point, just because we're just opening that conversation. But we felt it was easiest to start with, this is what we would recommend if we did a fee increase. So any questions? Either overall or on an individual increase?
I have a few questions. So first one was in the proposed fees, the increase are estimated to generate $211,000. Is that in addition to what you've already yet? Is it an
Yes.
increase?
It's an
Net
Yeah, that's
increase?
an additional 200.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And what percentage do your fees make up the overall budget income? Do you have a feel, is that 25%, 50%?
Sorry, are you like the amount that we bring in fees? What is that in percentage to
The overall budget?
the overall?
Increase in income.
I'd have to look at the budget. It's
Would that vary depending upon whether it's programming or something?
Well, I was
like
gonna
that?
say, so I have some budgets that are like 60 or 80%, or say like the aquatic park might be at like 52%. But overall, if you're adding, you know, admin and our whole.
No. The question I think was, unless I'm misunderstanding, was the amount of money that we bring in revenue from fees and charges. What is that percentage as part of our total revenue that we bring in from everything?
Yeah.
And I think that's about. It's a small
Small
amount.
when you look at the
Yeah.
tax base.
Yeah, a lot of our programs are subsidized, so it's a small percentage, but we can get that number to you.
I'm just a general ballpark, is that like 10%, 15%, or is it? I don't need to really know the whole amount, but I'm just curious about what percentage of that is, you're getting from your fees versus SDCs and tax base.
We can provide you that breakout. I'd
Sure,
hate
it's
to
in
give
our
you,
budget book.
yeah, I'd hate to give you numbers that are off the cuff on that.
And next question was, how do these fees compare to other areas as far as what you see?
We evaluate kind of our peers and those around us that offer similar programs. We don't lead in the industry, but we're trying to get closer and not lagging. I think there were a couple of fees that maybe Oregon City may have had at one bit lower, but they're planning on raising it. Obviously, right now it's hard. We can't really look at Portland. Portland's fees are a lot higher, but their pay as you can or type of thing.
So
So it really looks different, but kind of looking at things.
Happy Valley?
Well, Happy Valley doesn't have any of our programs, it's racist, really. They have some contractors that come in and they're a lot higher. That they're offering to their community, but they don't have a pool and they don't have a lot of the regular programs that we have.
Oh, yeah, they don't have a pool yet, but I've seen some of the things that come around, they have a lot of,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
a
never
lot more
thought to compare them,
expensive.
but just, it's
Yeah.
just a different type of thing, but.
Yeah, we don't use that as a comparable, but it is a lot more expensive. Like a program that we have to play a sport that might be $116 or something, you know, you're paying over $250 in Happy Valley right now. So, but it's not a good.
Yeah, it's not apples to apples comparison.
Generally, though, it seems like it would be easier to support if it's in alignment pretty much with what other areas are doing, you know. We're all seeing additional costs that are coming up, and when was the last time these were amended?
The last bigger adjustment was 2019, I believe.
Yeah, a few of these were adjusted in 2020, and we had a few fees that were adjusted last year, but those aren't on any of these recommended for
Right.
this year.
Last, just as a comment on my part is that I was on the Parks Advisory Board for for the county. And they go through a similar process, which I think follows this process of doing it in the fall. So that it is adopted in time for it to be folded into the budget process, which starts in January. And so I think this is a great timing for it. It sounded like parts of these would become effective in winter 2024, right?
Correct.
Not July.
Yes, correct, yeah.
If we had it approved, we would start in January, and then it would roll out. A lot of it is heavy summer. Our summer registration is in April, but we start advertising in January. So I need to have those fees established before then. And then as far as the district goes on our program fees, historically, we usually have them adopted around this time. But during COVID, we kind of transferred and we weren't doing that, and it was part of our budget process, and we also didn't have an active fees.
And these would be would apply until they're changed again.
Correct, and one of the next steps, and it might be going a little out of order, but because of the timing of trying to get this before the body to put it in place in time, is we need to have a discussion with both you all, I'm assuming, and the board on our cost recovery model. And do some education, first of all, for those of you that aren't aware of what the cost recovery model in general is. But also to look at, you know, it's a fairly antiquated set of numbers. I have much stronger feelings on using the cost recovery pyramid, like most anybody that deals in cost recovery is familiar with in the public sector. But adjusting the percentages and really it's a fairly direct approach to how you determine what you charge for fees based on the level of subsidy that's provided for a particular classification of programs, usually based on what its level of community involvement or community benefits of the largest broad-based programs that have the largest community support are the most subsidized, and those more individualized programs and activities and pursuits and a lot of pretty much all the adult activities are up at the top of the pyramid with the highest level of cost recovery, and then there's program levels in between. So we want to have that discussion as well. But I wanted to have, since we haven't discussed this with the board itself in this more robust of a fashion, we wanted to, you know, introduce the topic to you all, hopefully get a policy session with them. Then, you know, the hope would be that we can put these into place before we make a decision on a new cost recovery model, because that's why I decided to bring it this way. We're operating off of what we have had. This is what we would like to put into place to again, we're not getting on top of the cost recovery or the fee goals. We're just doing an incremental step. There are several fee categories that I think are I don't want to say way out of whack, but could definitely use more adjustment, but we want to do it incrementally.
Last comment is that this includes fee adjustments for the Milwaukee Community Center. So if you haven't already discussed it with those folks, and that might be a good idea, just because you know, they're maybe closer to how the center is actually being used and how people feel about the fees that are currently being charged.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Alex?
Yeah, I just have a question for our residents that are facing houselessness or underprivileged and low SES. What supports are already in place or will be in place with these fees increasing for those to still have access to parks and recreation?
Yeah, Candy, you want to talk about our support?
Well, right now we have some scholarship opportunities, so they do have to apply and fill out the scholarships. We work with the schools as well as some of the social services and different things. And then we also have the foundation for the Milwaukee Community Center supports the older adult programs as well. So those are really our main support. We have a couple other nonprofits that we've worked with as well that provide support. And then obviously, as a district, our goal would be to expanding opportunities for more scholarships and funded programs.
Yes, and then the applications to the scholarships, are they like, how easily accessible are they? Are they put through different modalities, different languages? Different
Right
ways to access
now,
that
I
information?
think it's only in like 2 full languages that I've received. And then we work with our counselors, and then we also have, like we use these pocket talks and such, so that we're just getting the real basic information. So they don't really have to supply a lot of detail and utilizing it. A lot of them are using it through the schools, and if they're on the lunch program, yeah, they qualify. So,
My question, good questions, Mark and Ali. First of all, I guess the first question I have is, it looks like most of it's programming. And I am curious as far as the conversation and the relationship with Milwaukee Center as far as the fees for that, both of you two, because I know you're active on the community center. So I don't have to answer that now, but I am curious about that. Also, have we done any demographics of not just the district at large, knowing the economic crisis that a lot of people and families are in, but more, have we done a demographic of what we think the users are based on our history? For example, like who's using the facilities? Can they afford it? Is this a great impact to them? And lastly, I know we can't answer that one here either, but what is I know cost recovery in parks is, I won't say abstract, but not too many people are very successful at doing it. So what is the model? Do you have the model? Is there a target? Is it 50% recovery? Is it 100% recovery? What does that spreadsheet or that algorithm look like?
So our cost recovery model, it's a traditional model that's definitely used in Parks and Rec, but I think it's used in a lot of different businesses. Ours looks different, like Mike was saying, he wants to make changes, and we've made some adjustments from when on the main thing, it shows like a general youth program is supposed to make 125%, but that is of just direct costs. So it doesn't include, all of our additional costs with our utilities and admin or management or, facility costs. So that's kind of how it's established, but we have, a lower level tier that's like 75. That includes some inclusive programming and special event components. We have base things. We have free community events like our Recmobile or movies or concerts and things right now that are free to the community. And then we have more detailed type programming, which as a district, we haven't really geared back up into. But when we have more advanced things or like private lessons or individual benefit things that are at the top of the pyramid, they're more than 150. Or your rentals. And so talking about like programming at the Milwaukee Community Center, we have a contract with Clackamas Community College, and they set the rate. They set the rates for the programs, and they pay for half the instructor. So with and that's not changing at this point. But when that changes, obviously I don't have a lot of choice but changing it or not offering. The youth programs that we have there, they are listed here, and there's very minimal. They also have minimal increases. The rentals is something that the community center advisory board's been talking about. And they want to get more people in and do different things. But looking at that with the space and what we have and what's available in the community, it was just little price adjustments, and so that's what was recommended here. Same thing with the aquatic park as far as facility rentals, but those are things that are at the top of the pyramid, but we're not reaching those
Right, well,
aspirational goals.
that was what I was gonna point out is Candy used the example of youth activities with 125% cost recovery goal. That was set by our board at some point. I don't know how long ago that was. But that's not in line with what kind of best practice national standards has for youth-based programming. And we are at best, maybe 60% of our cost recovery is in that 60 to 70%.
I have some programs that are at 93% with that direct cost at 125. From this past year.
But 93%, I mean, but on an average, if we looked at all of the programs, it was at like 60 to 70. I think
Yeah,
overall, when the overall goal is 125, and so that's the point of needing to look at it again with fresh eyes, new best practice standards, because we would have to double our rates from where they are right now to achieve that goal, and that is not achievable. And it's not realistic. So taking a look at that as the cost recovery philosophy is what it's usually known as. And those are goals. They're not, you have to reach this by X time. It's a goal you try and achieve through incremental fee increases over the years.
Well, I can at least speak for the board for the last 12 and a half years, and that being that we have not sought cost recovery through NCPRD or set or gave an initiative for staff to do that. So if it was changed and modified, it should be staff driven, and that's been the history of the board. Board of County Commissioners sitting down as the NCPRD Board of Directors approves what staff typically brings to them. That's historic. That's the history for my 12 and a half years. But on one example here, you just explain it, and that is the ball fields. Does it cost $900 to staff time to rent a ball field? Like crap. Well, there's an extra for lights, I thought I saw.
Yeah, well,
What pays for both?
12 in the packet, but
Yeah.
I think, the component of the ball fields is that includes the prep and the maintenance, the upkeep and providing the space. The labor on that day is not that much. But there is a lot of times there will be 4 to 6 staff that are required because we turn over the fields. For like baseball, we have to maintain and we have to have it ready for that next game to start.
There's, and from my experience, there's quite a bit of cost to repair from a certain amount of games. Field costs, especially if they're, it can get very, very expensive very quickly if you're having a lot of games, and you don't have a lot of in-between time. And that's why the cost recovery models I've seen of rentals, if you have a big tournament, you have a lot of maintenance to do in a very short period of time. A lot of fixing of damaged turf, and I'm not really in fields and sportsy things. Sorry, that's the technical term. Director sounds.
I know our costs are up in the spring and the fall, with the weather, if it rains, obviously the summer when it's drier. But they try not to have rainouts as well.
That's all I have. That's all I have for questions. And I'll probably be asking a similar questions as.
And what we hope to have better, some more breakout information on some of these more particulars. So if you have other particular ones that caught your eye, please reach out, let me know. And, because again, it should be easy enough for us to figure out what those costs are for a daily, usage and show you how it plays in with that $6 or $9 problem. So.
I just know there's a lot of families that are struggling financially right now, just because of inflation, right? They're just having a hard time buying groceries to feed their family, right? Others, because price of groceries have gone up significantly, so just sensitive to that.
So it kind of goes down to who's paying which fees. The ball fields, it may be.
That's an
People
organization.
can afford it, I guess, if they did that, or they wouldn't be paying it.
Yeah, it's not an individual $600 cost. That's being paid by a team or an organization, ball club. But again, we wanted to start the conversation and open it up. Again, Katie had.
I'm gonna be a little bit of the timekeeper here. Were there any more questions, Director Sean?
Yeah, I have one.
Well, Well, we have a list here. Katie?
I just want to clarify, my understanding of the plan right now is just to discuss the fee increases we're looking at right now. You're not planning on bringing to the board a change in the model at this time, it's just looking at these fees.
Yeah, just giving you a heads up on the model part.
Again, then we'll go to Joel, then
I think Lisa.
Lisa.
Sorry.
Okay,
Just a minute.
I understood from the packet, from the staff report, that the goal was 25% higher for out of district, is that correct?
Yeah, we do have something that, non-resident rate have a minimum of 25%.
Minimum, okay. I mean, to me, 25 is not unreasonable, but I guess I was seeing things in here that are 35 and some of them are 40, a lot of them are 25. I don't wanna overstate the case, but there are some that are 35 and 40%.
There were several that were like 60,
Yeah.
especially the smaller dollar amounts, because we don't want to get small change or we
Mm.
round up.
Right.
But you'll see that throughout.
Is it okay if I go with Siri next? Do you have any more questions?
No,
You Siri?
Yeah, how raising the rates, how does this affect moving to an independent district in the future? Like, would this hinder the process or encourage the process, or would this cause issues of a deficit in funding? I hear Commissioner Savis's comment about the how unaffordable things are becoming, but is there a way for us to, I guess the question is, do we know if these rates, the proposed rates go through, will this deter people from using the facilities or encourage people to use the facilities with the cost of living going up?
Little bit to unpack there. Yeah, do I think that it would deter people with the minor increases that we're proposing? No, I don't believe so. I can't say that for 100%. But with regard to the governance potential change, really what would happen is this would be a rate structure that's approved by this board of directors. A newly elected independent board of directors would have to adopt a new fee schedule that could look exactly the same or it could be markedly different. But that would be up to the new board to determine. But one doesn't necessarily transfer. I don't see that it would impede the process, but I also don't see where it would help or really impact the process at all.
Okay, thank you. I guess, does it alter, okay, last question, I know we're running short. So does the deficit, the difference in the does it change? Well, never mind, I'll ask that question offline, thank you.
Just a real quick question, kind of going with Lisa touched on with the resident, non-resident, and back to even what Commissioner Savis said about maybe a demographic study. I don't know what kind of information is already available, but I'm curious, at least in the larger ticket items like Milwaukee Community Center rentals, North Clackamas Parks rentals, like the ball fields and the aquatic center. Is there information or data on what percentage are non-residents versus residents? And it's kind of just my head turning as we were talking about it, but even with ball fields, obviously in organizations, one submitting the application for those rentals. I'm not saying we should be doing a bunch of research on things, but are we making sure that we're actually getting what our fee is designed for? If it's a non-resident organization, it's pretty obvious, obviously, but I mean, I'm assuming there's some sort of criteria to, you don't just have one person that happens to have an address in the district that's filling out the application and we're like, okay, that's good. I don't know if that's babbling makes a little bit of sense, but I'm just curious what the percentage of non-resident versus resident usage is, at least on those larger ticket items are, because that's where those fee increases are most significant. And it seems like that's where we get the most amount of revenue if we're actually looking to increase that on those fees, so.
But Candy can answer the percentage question if she.
I mean, is there?
I don't have
Yeah,
that
I
off.
have to look
generally,
it up.
Yeah.
Um,
But for the second part, I mean, realistically, our duty is to serve the residents. The reason that you have a 25% minimum fee premium is because, quite honestly, we're trying to keep the programs open as much as we can for our residents that are defined as tax-paying members of the district within the boundary. Now, do we do diligence on like organizations doing the bigger rentals? Absolutely. And are there people that slip through the cracks that, you know,
Sure.
somebody's registering for somebody else, then they just happen to have a piece of property within the district? Probably, but we don't pursue that. But really, not to be mean to people that don't live in the district, but there is a membership benefit to being a member of NCPRD. And that is both price difference and also, don't forget, it's also priority. So for programs that fill up quickly, it's residents first. And so that's, you know, one of the other kind of filters for that residency versus non-resident.
Does that, and I'll shut up here in a second, I promise, Sharon, but does that also apply to preference for, I mean, ball fields, pool time, things of those hot commodity amenities that are difficult to get? Is there preferences given to residents for that as far as, you know, I specifically, like I said, ball fields, or I'm thinking like I said, for maybe local swim clubs versus out of.
We have a limited number of ball fields nowadays.
Right.
And what's interesting is that the rentals are pretty much non-resident.
Hmm.
Really?
That's
For
what I was
our
kind of
rental
wondering.
fees, so for those tournaments. Part of the use is that our local youth are on the school properties
Hmm.
now that they redid all their fields. And then we no longer have artificial turf, so I don't have what everyone's looking for there. So that's kind of an interesting piece. As far as the pool goes, facility rentals are kind of that they're not so crazy. I mean, it's first come, first served type of things. For fields, historically, we schedule everything seasonally. The pools are scheduled seasonally for swim team. And we pretty much have everybody just come in the room together and talk about it, and they can kind of understand that residents have priority, and then it goes from there.
Got it. Interesting, thanks.
Are there any other questions? Okay, to wrap this up, I do think it would be great to see the general model, to explain it to the DAC, what that recovery model is, the pyramid.
Yeah.
Well, just a general overview, so people understand, like, rock climbing is gonna be one of the high, if we have a rock climbing facility, right? And then also, one thing I noticed that you haven't touched on is inflation. I just did a study where we had a 15.1% inflation in a certain area. And that's federal, that isn't like a local inflation, and making sure that that's communicated as well. And I totally get the impact that we have economically on a lot of people, we're all experiencing it. But I also know the impact that it will have on services if we don't have revenue. So I think maybe coming back with the model, the revenue cost recovery model, what would also help. Do you all agree?
Then we'll have had feedback from the policy session hopefully as well.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, also who's paying the different fees.
Yeah, and the demographics, it's gonna be interesting to find out from the system planning, our demographics and better understand.
And that's the other point to Joel's question that I was gonna bring up is through the system plan process, there's also gonna be a business review and an operational review. That's gonna look at kind of our current list of fees and charges. I believe that's in there. That will then, I know they're gonna look at our charges, whether they make specific recommendations or just kind of make generalities that, you know, around, but that is part of the system plan process and the data analysis function.
Okay, should we move on to?
Thanks, Katie.
Charlie, thank you. Charlie, safety audit summary.
All right.
Jeanette, you're good on that last one? Okay. You're like.
All right, so we have Alex Gilbertson here to do a presentation.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everybody. Alex Gilbertson. I'm a landscape architect and principal planner with North Clackamas Parks and Rec District. And I'm here tonight to talk to you a little bit about the work I've been doing on the trolley trail. So we've heard some concerns from citizens and trail users, safety concerns specifically about the speed of bicyclists on the trolley trail. And NCPRD wanted to figure out if it was a perception of a safety concern or if the data actually supported it. So in February, we contracted with Alta Planning and Design to conduct a safety audit for the trolley trail. So you can hit the next slide. Tonight, I'm going to cover a pretty small background, some key objectives, but most of the presentation, I'm going to focus on the safety audit process. And then I'll quickly go over some key findings and recommendations. Next slide. So the trolley trail is a 6-mile multi-use path that was developed in 2012. And the goal of this project is to evaluate the safety of the trolley trail from Southeast Washington Street at Milwaukee Bay Park in Milwaukee to Glen Echo Avenue in Gladstone. Next slide. The plan's key objectives included looking for perceived issues and identifying problematic areas and providing recommendations for those areas. Alta also looked at assessing the function of the trail, identifying any health and safety issues, as well as gauging how the trolley trail compares to other regional trails. The project team worked with NCPRD staff to gather available information that was pertinent to the project to understand and assess how the existing conditions and the challenges, what those were along the corridor. And so Alta looked at reviewing existing plans and trail resources, GIS data, known conditions in the field. They looked at the trolley trail master plan. They looked at incident reports from Clackamas County Sheriff's Office over a 5-year span from 2018 through 2022. They looked at crash data from 2014 through 2020. It also included interviews with NCPRD staff and community members. Trail user count data was taken into account, as well as looking at current maintenance and operations, safety guidelines, looking at rules, regulations, and ordinances. So the background research before they even started was quite robust. Next slide. The team wanted to identify challenges and potential solutions in the field by conducting 2 field visits to identify safety issues and challenges throughout the corridor. And those were specific to looking at trail conditions and user experience. So during the first initial field visit, they documented physical trail conditions such as visibility issues due to lighting, overgrown vegetation, slopes, etc. They looked at surface conditions, and this could include drainage, changes in material or grade, leaf litter, cracks, tree roots, etc. Signage and striping, looking at the messaging of, the placement of, the lack of adjacent land uses. Is it residential? Is it industrial? Is there heavy machinery, noises, odors, that kind of thing? And then more generally looking at obstacles and constraints. So they took all that information they gathered from the first field visit and they conducted a second field visit and looked at safety issues that pertain to trail conditions with user experience. So that helped them kind of call out some of those hot topic like conflict points and user conflicts. So they set up in 6 different locations along the trail during the morning and evening commute hours so that we could get that higher use to observe those behaviors and identify any safety concerns with user conflicts. And they looked at things such as user conflict concerns, which included more specifically between bicyclists and pedestrians. And then that also included trail users generally in a bucket with vehicles at intersections. They looked at crash risk associated with speed, turning radius, width of the trail, volume of users. So things along that line. And then they also we're assessing visual guidance and user response to that. So next slide. This is an example of one segment of trail. So the first field visit provided quite thorough documentation of the trail condition, and it identified the potential safety issues along the corridor. So both a landscape architect and an engineer walked the entire corridor out and back in one day, and they were able to conduct a safety audit of the access points, the intersections, the trailheads all along the corridor. They then took all that information and documented those observations using this detailed site map and checklist, which you can see off to the left, and then photo documentation to kind of ensure that each segment of trail had a comprehensive and thorough analysis for the entire corridor. So next slide. To save time, I'm not going to go into depth reading through all of the key findings, so I'll just hit on the categories, and you can find more details in the full report. So for key finding or takeaway for signage, looking at ways to enhance signage and promote safety and help trail users to navigate the corridor. Next slide. Striping, so improve and add pavement markings to minimize conflicts. Next slide. Surface conditions could mean maintaining and repairing level surfaces or bolstering shoulders to help maintain edge conditions of the trail. Next slide. This could mean visibility issues. So this could mean trimming vegetation or adding like reflectors or bollards to any sort of vertical, like in this photo, those posts of the bridge crossing, adding vertical bollards to those vertical elements within 2 feet of the trail edge. Next slide. Adding landscaping to create visual buffers between the trail and adjacent industrial uses or busy roads. Next slide. And then this photo actually shows a location along the trail where adding curb stops, for example, could help with cars that are overhanging onto the trail section. Next slide. So taking all of those key findings, Alta then conducted that second field visit, and they scheduled it at times during the that would capture the higher usage of the trail to better understand and observe user behaviors. So 4 Alta staff were situated strategically at specific locations along the trail, and each observer had this site map and a checklist of the relevant issues to take notes on and reference. And so what you see on the screen here is just one example of one segment of trail during the morning commute hours. And so that being said, you can find all the detailed field notes that are provided in the full report. So next slide, Jessica. There were 6 observation sites throughout the 6-mile corridor. Those included Southeast 17th and McLaughlin Boulevard near Milwaukee Bay Park, between Southeast 22nd and Southeast River Road, Southeast Park Avenue and Southeast 27th Avenue near the MAX station, Southeast Torbank Avenue to Southeast Courtney Avenue and Southeast Arista Drive. Number 5, intersection of Southeast Concord and Southeast Arista Drive. And then lastly, between Southeast Arista Drive and Southeast Holt Avenue. So of those 6 locations and observations, there were 4 general corridor-wide observations made. The first one being bollard and basalt trailhead markers are effective at forcing trail users to recognize and slow down at intersections. Second, sections of the trail that are adjacent to McLaughlin Boulevard are impacted from noise pollution generated from the roadway. Third, some scooters and e-bikes move through the corridor at higher speeds. And the last observation is trail users generally are self-regulating speed, sharing the path, and slow down to pass. Next slide. Taking the data gathered from both field visits, Alta then compiled a list, kind of like a toolkit of solutions. And then this toolkit provided safety improvement options that respond directly to the specific safety issues and conditions documented during the safety audit process. So they organize it into these 5 different categories: signage, striping and pavement markings, maintenance and operations, rolling out a safety campaign, and surface treatments. So next slide. So here is an example of a trail recommendation for segment 21 at Southeast Arista Drive. Each segment of the corridor includes priority recommendations from the toolkit of solutions. It also calls out the responsible agency because some of these recommendations do not necessarily fall within NCPRD's jurisdiction. So for example, on this sheet here, leveling the surface around the manhole on Arista Drive would require coordination with Clackamas County. I will also add that Alta, even though they called out some things that needed to be remedied, NCPRD staff has and continues to work on things as part of routine maintenance and requests. For example, removing graffiti, trimming vegetation, maintaining the shoulders, as well as painting fog lines on the 6 mile stretch, which have proven to be extremely effective. Next slide. Because there has been some concern about the speed of bikers, I wanted to specifically call attention to this. So based on the data observed and collected and observations made during the safety audit process, Alta is not recommending speed control measures at this time, either through like chicanes or speed humps as part of along the trolley trail. In areas that are where users are not self-regulating speed, the recommendation is to increase width of the trail or create some sort of separation to help the different users with different speeds. And if that is not an achievable recommendation or solution, the third recommendation is to actually roll out some sort of safety campaign to help with education. And this sign on the photo here, it says easy, we're not giving out trophies, is I think just a cheeky, cute little way to sort of say, slow down. This is on the Atlanta Beltline for an example. Next slide, I think it should be the last one. Yep. So to conclude this presentation, I'll just say that Alta worked as an independent professional looking for perceived issues and identifying which things are problematic on the trolley trail. And though there are areas for improvement, the data from the safety audit really does show that the trolley trail is a well-loved, well-used, safe, and enjoyable trail. So the link is up on the website, ncprd.com/parks/trolley-trail. If you click on that link and you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a link for the full safety audit report, which was like 140 some pages. That's why it's not included in your packet. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm wondering if there's any consideration of like a speed limit sign, because I know especially like as e-bikes are gaining prevalence in a lot of biking communities, that's been helpful to get those, e-bikers to slow down. And, as a trail skater, I'm always a little bit cautious around e-bikes, and I know they can be kind of scary for families with young children on the trail. So I was wondering, is a speed limit sign maybe a thought to help promote safer speeds?
Yeah, signage was
Okay.
in the toolkit of solutions, so there's
Okay.
quite a few options
Yeah.
of how that could be resolved in each category. So I didn't go through a lot of that, and so it's a thing that
Part of
could be
that.
considered.
Okay.
But at this time, we're just not rolling anything out yet, because we need to sort of look at the district-wide priorities, and that includes weaving this in, incorporating it into the system plan so that we can take a broader look at this time, but yeah.
I have the same concern about the speeds and I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time from residents. I live near the 20 River Road end of the trolley trail. And I actually, where at that light where River Road comes to McLaughlin, the trolley trail's pretty narrow and right up against McLaughlin. And, a woman lost her legs in an accident there in the early days of the trolley trail. So, I know people who actually won't ride that and they ride around. You can kind of bypass it going up River Road a little bit. But anyway, I still see even how narrow it is and how constrained it is with like 3 lights in short succession. There are some e-bikes that come through there at crazy speeds. And I just like, could be sitting at the light and just be dumbfounded by how fast some of them are going. So I'm a fan of some kind of speed limits. I doubt that Clackamas County Sheriff's Office is writing, but it would be nice to have an occasional rider. We do have some officers in Milwaukee who do ride occasionally. And it would be nice to see.
Motorcycles.
Pardon?
Motorcycles.
No. Well, we have those. We have 2 official police bikes for them to ride
I like
at events. I don't think they're electric. Yeah. Although that may be in the cards, but I would just also note that e-bikes are actually illegal in Oregon for anyone under 16. And that is violated left and right. Another thing, the police, and I will say that Lake Oswego Police and Lake Oswego School District have been very vocal about that. They have they've done a big campaign in Lake Oswego about e-bikes being illegal for under 16, and I do feel like our area could benefit from something like that, because I am interested to see that full report and see what it says about the crash data from the county, because I think, well, first off, if you're in the middle of a long stretch where you're not near a street, you may not bother it. If you're not, if the ambulance didn't have to come for you, you may not be calling in your crash, right? So I would say anything we see is going to be underreporting, but I am curious to see that. So
Well, the actual specifics of the crash data and the incident reports are not included, but I can send those as to Jessica to send out if that's something you'd be interested in.
Well, I don't want anybody's name or anything. But
Well,
I
no,
just
no, no.
want,
Yeah.
like, how often how many calls they get over that 5 years,
Yeah.
and how serious, what was an ambulance call, was an ambulance needed
Yeah.
at the scene?
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'd like to know. But anyway, so yeah, I do have the concern about speeds for sure.
Well, living in sub area 2, where most of the trail goes through, right? So I would start by saying that it is an incredible asset to the community, which I think everyone is so happy that we have it, and we're grateful to people like Thelma who made it happen. And I'm always grateful to those who made it. And for NCPRD taking it on to keep it up. Spring water corridor is another issue we won't have. There are just a couple of things that I wanted to mention. First, I think that the ridership the use during the weekend is very different from weekdays. And what I see historically, many times that I've used it, is a much higher usage by bicyclists during the weekend than there is during weekdays. And there you see over and over again, folks who are taking this opportunity to go as fast as they possibly can without regard for the people who are walking the trail, especially with their dogs. So, and I don't mean to be mean to them, but I would say that there are folks who are, they are like on their speed bikes. They are riding a bike that is made for speed, not for pleasure. And so I think speed is a considerable concern because we have every walk of life using that trail, old people, young people. I have a dog, he doesn't like to go in a straight line, you know, so that happens all the time. So I do think that it would help, and maybe that, and when we get into the systems plan and discuss this more, looking at the cross section of weekend versus weekday, there is a difference. And so that might have some impact on how things are implemented. There are barriers along the pathway, especially when you go onto Arista, that I've had to take into consideration multiple times to make sure I don't spill over and kill myself, like that, some of the things that you pointed out. And so, and I think the other thing that I find that hopefully would help with striping, it's not always clear where the trail is when you go onto the streets and where it starts and where it stops. I think that is not clear. And so the other thing about the width is 12 feet. Is that pretty much the average width of the trail right now? It's about 12 feet?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm really glad that you guys striped this a year or so ago. I happened to run into a resident walking down the trail one day and he said, why did the county spend so much money putting stripes on this? That's just a waste of money. And I thought, well, maybe because you're not here at certain times of the day when that is really important. So
yeah, and on a trail that's not lit, like it
No.
really helps at night. And so one of the recommendations too is to actually add like dashed fog lines across the driveways so that,
correct.
Yeah.
Right.
so.
It'd be great to have a separation between bicyclists and walkers. It's not wide enough, in my opinion, to make that happen without it being unsafe.
Yeah.
And I would always love to see more improvements to it. More vegetation, more places to sit down along the trail, other things like that. So I would also like to suggest that if it's okay with the NCPRD folks, I think people in Oak Grove would like to hear more about this, and I would invite you guys to give a presentation at our community council sometime in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sure, do you want to, Jessica, do you want to shut the presentation up so Siri can talk? We can see him. Go for it, Siri.
Cool. I guess I briefly looked through that report. The intersection on Jennings and 99E. I don't know. For me, that to me is it's a double right, or depending on which way you're going. You have to cross over two crosswalks, I guess. I know it's a state highway. And getting a diagonal crosswalk or something more efficient to where people can cross that all traffic is stopped might be quite beneficial. Regarding the speed and people on two wheels, I think education is more important than speed signs and monitoring. I think it's a little silly, personally, because people on bicycles who want to go fast, right? If you ride a two-wheeler, eventually you're wanting to approach speed, everyone ages, then you want to slow down. I think the education of the bicyclist as to how to approach someone with a dog or an elderly person or someone walking might be a more approachable path with people, because I think telling someone on a high performance bicycle who's utilizing the trail to slow down might be kind of contentious versus saying, hey, when you're approaching someone, slow down, move over, then continue to speed back up. I think education over hanging signs is what I'm trying to vocalize there. But that intersection on 99E and Jennings, I think could use some attention.
I know, Missouri, that Clackamas County and I believe it's ODOT and Metro are working on a project in that intersection to figure out if a diagonal crossing or something could help as part of, I think it's mitigation for the bridge. And so I don't have like full details on that, but I do know that that's it's in the planning process.
Thank you.
Jeanette?
Oh, thank you. Two comments. One is I have a bias, I'll just admit fully that I worry a lot more about the conflict points between vehicles and pedestrians and bikes. I know a lot of the community concern is definitely around bikes and pedestrians, which is totally valid. But I see that there's a lot of challenging geometry. So of course, I'd love to know if there's any improvements planned for Clackamas County on their transportation system plan. And the next question I have, and I'm sorry, unstated, but that I'd love the district to work with the county on that. If there's an intersection or driveways that are tricky, that's sort of a landmine in my opinion. And then if there's different kinds of striping and signs installed, would like to suggest looking at the maintenance cost on that. Loving that there's striping and whatnot, but I know that there's continual maintenance that's required. So I don't want to suggest that we add a lot of things to say we did something if it means a maintenance burden, especially per Ms. Suri's point that education is a really good tool in the toolbox as well. Thank you.
And part of the toolkit of solutions, it actually has sort of a cost range associated with each solution so that it will help with the prioritization of projects as well. Looking at things like maintenance and operations as well as direct costs.
Mine is just pretty quick. And it's probably something that will come down later, but in terms of the plants and the vegetation to be used, I'm just curious about the type, like if there's any sort of code in Clackamas County in terms of what plants should be used. And if so, I would love to bring up the idea of creating plants that would contribute to sensory, just for the families and the kids that may be having that are neuroatypical walking on the trail, so that there's more focus on the trail, and that way they can use the plants as more of a sensory guide.
Yeah, I want to concur with the comments of Mayor Beatty's and Mark's comments. The weekend traffic is significantly greater than it is on the weekdays, whether it's rush hour or not rush hour. I just want to make that comment. I've been using the trail myself since it was first opened up, and it's gotten nothing but worse, frankly. And I think the e-bikes have added a lot to that because they indeed go faster as well as the scooters. You know, I've done in the past the trail counts, so I've been out there standing there, you know, and you try to do the trail count, try to ask questions sometimes, and I'll tell you, they just sit by in a very reckless way. Some of those bicyclists. So it is. I can see if you are, you know, in your upper years and you're walking your little dog, and all of a sudden, swoosh, someone comes by and the dog wanders out. And I've watched this happen. The dog will wander out. The dog almost gets ran over. And the other thing I will say, I will tell you from, you know, I live in the area, so I will tell you that I'm sure that 90%, if not 95% of all those types of events that are not accident related are not reported at all. No one's reporting it because nothing really happened other than they got scared to death. But the complaints I've heard, you know, it's only gotten worse over the years. So I'm not challenging Alta or anything else, but I think that time of day, the weekday, so forth, and during COVID, a lot more people are out on the trail than they were prior to COVID. So there's a lot more users on the trail than ever before. But the good thing on the trail is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was the highest used trail in all of Clackamas County, bar none. By the way, so it's a well-used, well-appreciated trail.
I was just say it's both good and bad. As you find out, the more use you have, the more conflicts you're going to have, and that's pretty clear because that's talking with people. You have more conflicts on the weekends than you do during the week, and so that brings up the who is the trail intended to be for? Is it for all uses? Because that, you know, you get bicyclists, and you get people walking slow, and they don't get out of the way, then you just lined up for conflict. So I don't know if there's something in the safety you ask people to watch for each other. You know, you can put speed limit signs, but it's a question of it's a difficult, complicated question to answer, so you get lots of people using the trail at the same time.
Yeah, well, if I was king for a day, I'd put speed limit signs, and frankly, I think one idea would be even having a photo radar with the speed limit sign, just to educate people, right, and let them know how fast, because people don't know how fast, I don't know how fast I'm going on my bike. My bike doesn't have, I walk and I bike the trail. I don't know how fast, I don't have a speedometer on my bike. I don't know how fast I'm going. You know, so what is the speed limit? Don't know, right?
So
So,
what speed limit for what? How do we enforce a speed limit?
well, I mean, what's the recommended speed? I mean, whatever, how do you want to word it?
Well, yeah, it's the difficulty of putting up a sign that we can't enforce. We ask people to act nicely.
Well, yeah, it's a matter of respect. And the last thing I wanted to say on this is that, you know, it's proven science that the wider the road is, or the wider it may be, the faster people go.
Yes, yes, I thought of that when we're.
Okay,
About like-
hey, do you want to do a time check? We're about 20 minutes behind, so, Mark, are you up?
Yeah, just two quick things. Two things I heard from folks. Fencing, I assume that fencing along the trail is the responsibility of the adjoining property. Is that right? I mean, I don't see any fencing that's really NCPRD's. I can tell you that the fencing is terrible. And so that is an issue that I don't know whether this is something we address, but with individual property ownership. The other is that there is concern about people living on the trail. And I know that's not an NCPRD issue, that's more of a sheriff's. Perhaps as we improve this trail, let's not make it worse by making it more easy for folks to stay.
I just wanted to pick up on something Commissioner Salas said, which is about speed monitoring signs. And that is an interesting tool to use ahead of talking about a speed limit or a lot of speed limit signs. Those signs that tell you how fast you're going, they are pretty darn cheap and they are pretty darn portable. The Milwaukee Police Department has 3 or 4 of them that they move around town. They put them up for a week here and a week there. And that would be interesting for informing the rider and informing the people who happen to be out on the trail when the rider goes by, and everyone can see how fast that rider was going. And that might be a, you know, worthwhile investment to make and to move it around to hotspots.
If it works for bicycles.
Well, I, that's exactly what I was thinking, and what I liked about it was it's not intended for an enforcement angle, it's more of an education angle. I mean, going by those things like
Speed cameras, that's a. big
Well,
difference.
that's when you said
Figure
radar, I was
speed
thinking, yeah, you've got
signs.
a sheriff's
Speed
department, or a
camera.
deputy standing there, but with like what Lisa was saying, as far as just informing, it's, yeah, they're terrific.
And if they capture stats, you
And that's
know,
even
the
better.
sign.
Well, that's a different, I mean, that's an add-on, to a system, but again, I would defer that the board needs to make some determinations, hopefully informed by data from best practices and audits of what they would like. I'm an e-biker, so hopefully nobody beats me up on anything. But I'll tell you, that's real fast. But I'll tell you, from an e-bike perspective, stroller moms are my nemesis, and people with iPods or ear pods. Because I try and do the right thing and ding and call out, hey, passing. But if somebody's blasting music in their ear, they have no idea until you're passing them. And even at slow speed on an e-bike, it's still a faster speed than a traditional bike. I'm not going down the trail at 30 miles an hour. There are some that do, but I will also say that not all of those are e-bikes. Some of those people at speed are in their lycra suits that think they're on the Tour de France on a regular old pedal powered bike. But I guess my point is, I'm sure the pedal powered bike people have, you know, angst with the dog walkers, and the dog walkers have angst with it. It's a multi-use trail, and there's always gonna, in Alaska, it was snow machines versus dog sleds. I mean, we had those arguments just like we're having here. And so it's gonna happen. We want to mitigate as much as we can. But when we start getting into trying to talk about you know, either mandates or ordinances or laws, every state is struggling with that now. Even on different types and classes of e-bikes and speed limits that are supposed to be on there. So it is a big discussion that I just want to make sure that we're not going down a path where we're putting things out that have the impression that we're enforcing, when we have no ability to enforce. So speed indicators at key intersections, yeah, heck, I'd like to see how it matches up with what my speedometer on my bike computer says, and see if I can get it up to 30. No, just kidding.
Tuck down.
Let's move on. I'm gonna tie this up. There's trail etiquette. Signs that are really important. I struggle with that on the trolley trail as well. Yes, we can't enforce everything, but there's also intention. No smoking in parks, that helps people regulate. So I disagree with not having, I actually think we should have smoke-free parks. That gives people the opportunity to self-regulate and have the community. So I do think there's a lot of things that can be done to help slow that speed down. And etiquette signs are really important. They're used in state parks. They actually work.
We've got them on the trails, on the trolley trail.
They're
They're regularly.
a lot of them.
Well, and the font is like 9.
Yeah, they're small, but that's part of the
Like
point.
actually having those.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're regularly placed along.
I run and I've had bikers pretty much almost run me over and I'm like right on the edge. So anyway, okay, so are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Because I would love us to move forward. Okay, so the next piece is goal setting. I'd like to make this one fairly quick. In your packet, we had a small full disclosure. Thank you. And thanks, Alex. Sorry, just get out, Alex. Keep going. So full disclosure, I was going over the notes and I left David out of the discussion. I apologize, David. I saw the meeting minutes and did not realize he wanted to be part of the goal making. Jeanette and I went back and forth a few times, and we came up with just some basic goals to get us through until we get to the system plan. I'd love to get just a few comments from you all. If we need to do a little wordsmithing, maybe we can do that, but I'd like us to really put a close to the goals. So these were written at a very high level to keep us focused, especially the last one. It rolls back to what is the purpose of the DAC. So we can always check in with ourselves and make sure that we are essentially staying on task and moving forward until we get our system plan and we can have additional actual community-based goals to work on. So I'd like to open it up to discussion. So is that good?
My question is, so following any discussion, will we need to approve the new goals? Is that the plan?
So the idea is, it would be great to have somebody, what is the action?
Make a motion.
Make a motion, thank you. To approve with some changes if we need to. I know there's some wordsmithing, a few wordsmithing pieces I've already heard about. So that would be great. If everybody's comfortable with doing that. Yes, sir.
If I would, are you wanting to do that tonight, or is it something you see people ruminating on this and reading
Well,
this? and
the
coming
idea
back
was to bring it, and if it was pretty clear, the last meeting we talked about it, it's like, let's have a team go to write these and then bring it to the group. And then have a motion, unless there's any changes. I mean, if there's minor changes, we can make a motion with minor changes. If this is off the board and just like whack-a-doodle, then we go on to the next meeting.
And members have had these in their packet, so it's not a surprise. Is there any discussion or question?
I would say it was a surprise. I didn't see it in there till just before the meeting.
Mhm.
And it's because it was buried between two other very large reports. So I guess maybe I'd say just for send out agendas, we say, see attachment.
Okay.
Just to make clear that we're seeing them, that we know that there's something there.
And I apologize again, I was looking through the meeting minutes, went, oh shoot, David volunteered as well, and I didn't hear that in the meeting, so I apologize for that. So we could hold off if you want more time to look at it, David and the rest of the team. Let me see, I'm looking at the TV, anybody up there, Jeanette, Siri, any questions? Okay,
Just have a comment, leaving that whole goal signal to you, I don't want to influence it one way or another, so I didn't participate in that. But I do want to say that I thought I heard you all, let's spend a lot of time in discussion on funding in the millage rate, and that's not here. So if you're all aware of that, that's fine. I'm not here to influence it one way or another, but I do know you did spend time talking about that. I don't think you used the term millage rate, but essentially that's what you were talking about.
that's what number 4 was, a general overall funding, and Mark had some suggestions on wordsmithing, but keeping it at a high level for funding and advocacy for funding and potentially, you know, advocating for a Parks Foundation, things like that. So that was the intent of number 4, is to try and capture a wide range of funding pieces. While not being too specific. Again, we're trying to keep this, I was trying to keep this light so that when the system plan comes out, we're staying focused on system plan, governance, advocacy for funding, things like that. Are there comments? Do we want to hold off and give it one more round? One more month to review?
Procedurally, if someone wants to make a motion, that would start the discussion.
I would like to make a motion that we approve these goals, or that we take a vote to see if we're ready to approve this and be done with this line of conversation.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. So now a second goes to
So it's moved and seconded, so now you open it up for discussion.
open for discussion.
Can I just clarify, is the motion to approve them or a motion to?
Adoption.
Okay, adoption. You just said two, so I want to make sure I have it right. in the minutes.
Discussion.
I think the way I look at it, I think it's good to be done. I think this is probably close enough. My only thing is it looks different than what we did. I haven't had a chance to go back and look at all the things, but I think you've got all the things there.
Okay,
If not, I'll let you know next time.
that's okay. I did try to meld everything into something high enough level that we can stay focused.
Can you, I don't think you mentioned Mark had some wordsmithing that was
Yes.
mentioned, but is that significant, or is it just?
It's really minor. What I suggested was, where you say continue to, so a few times, that's. The intent one was not to say we hadn't done this before, but to say it's a continuation. I felt that was perhaps redundant, so it wasn't particularly necessary. I'm not gonna be upset if it doesn't change.
So striking continue.
Right.
To focus on developing so on and so forth?
Yeah, so number 3 would say develop, strengthen and actively advocate, instead of saying continue to focus on developing. It would be that kind of, perhaps being a little bit more declarative.
More present tense.
And the same for number 5 as well, I'm assuming?
Right,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's right. And I thought perhaps number 1 would be instead of assisting, it would be to participate. So just, a slightly different emphasis.
Would you like to make that motion with those changes?
Yes, if I would have to amend, you'd have to amend your motion.
My.
Mark could make a motion to amend
Yeah.
with the changes
okay.
as just discussed, without having to list them all out.
Yeah, thank you. But I'll make that motion.
But to clarify then, so you're saying changing assist to participate and striking continue from 3 and 5.
Strike continue to focus on and just make develop.
And
Strengthen and actively advocate.
Yeah.
And then the last one would be provide recommendations to the board of directors. Does anybody second that?
I second.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so that goes to any more discussion? The TV people?
TV people.
TV stars.
They look happy. Let's take a vote.
Okay.
So do we
so
have to
it goes-
vote on the motion?
You need to vote on the amendment and then vote on the main motion.
Vote on the amendment.
So, yeah, you have to get a
All
call
those in
poll,
favor of the amendments as proposed.
or, yeah,
Yeah, all those in favor of the amendment as proposed, this is fun.
you can say it on it.
Aye or
I,
Aye.
Yeah.
nay? Okay, we got those, and aye. Okay, motion passes.
No, amendment passes.
Amendment passes. Now we vote on the motion. Yes.
Parliamentary procedure is so much.
We're getting it. Okay, now, now we'll vote on
On the main motion.
on the main motion that has been amended. Okay. By saying aye, this is Ally, we'll start with you, or nay.
Well, you can just,
We have
all
to-
in favor.
yeah, all
Say
in
aye.
Favor, say
Say
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Any opposed? Any abstentions? There you go. Thanks, Mike. Okay, it passes.
We are done with both settings.
With some minor changes. Okay, next item, item D is DAC Chair report at the Board of Directors meeting. I'm opening this up. I'd like to get, and I gotta remember the date. I'm sorry, Mike, I don't have the date in my mind.
September 20th,
September 20th, okay.
a week from today.
Yeah, so I would like to get, and maybe it's email me what you would like me to present to the Board of Directors. If we could take just like 3 or 4 minutes, if anybody has anything they'd like to say right now that I could bring to the Board of Directors as the chair report. Anything specific?
Do we have their agenda?
I was gonna say, is it, to their agenda, is it, what does it get, 10 minutes?
Jessica, is it 10 minutes on the agenda? I can't remember what the board decided.
Yes, I believe it's 10 minutes.
Yes. And the other items on the agenda is there's just an update on the system plan and then the same presentation on the trolley trail safety audit.
Yeah, and the chair does a report.
Yep, and those are
And I'd
the,
like it to be the whole board participate, or tell me, give me feedback on what you would like me to say to the board. If you'd like to do that, Mike, is via email okay?
yeah, I mean, they could email you or they could email Jessica and we can forward it to everybody.
Okay, so I have to do that Wednesday. Could we get that to me by Monday?
And if you want, Ryan, I can help you put
Yeah.
it together on Monday or
Well,
Tuesday.
Definitely be asking.
All right.
Okay,
10 minutes goes by really quick.
it does.
I appreciate you soliciting the input.
Thank you.
I heard smart.
I think the one thing is, you should mention, we got to have now a set of goals.
Yeah. mention the goals, yes.
I think.
Or maybe actually-
Yes.
In case you haven't thought of that.
So, and I will share with you all, what, the times.
The prepared statement or whatever.
I'll have on the day, so.
Plan for now is members will send you things that we would like you to talk about.
Yes, by Monday,
Monday.
by noon-ish. Please. Because.
We're all just gonna write trolley trail.
Okay.
So.
Governance, if there's governance,
Just one thing I was gonna ask is just if there was a discussion at this meeting about the government itself.
I will be asking about governance. That's definitely on my list, asking about governance. And what's going on with that, so. And a few specific questions about that.
And is that meeting here? Or
Yes.
is that it's
Yeah,
in this
in
room?
this room.
Okay.
Yeah, for at least the next several months, all of our NCPRD meetings will be here since we break ground soon.
I thought it might have been down at their office.
No, that was one of the main audit recommendations is that on these quarterly board meetings, they're held within the district. So that's been something we've been trying to make sure we do.
Thank you all. I really appreciate your input. Next item is any status updates, Mike?
Just nothing as far as Milwaukee Bay Park or SDC methodology. Concord, we're breaking ground this weekend. Everybody should have already received their postcard and other communications. There's additional postcards here, and Alex said she's got a whole bunch more in her car. if anybody wants to take them and spread the news. From 1 to 3, I believe the ceremony itself is planning to start at about 1:30. It's not gonna be as blazing hot as what we had originally had forecasted, which was like mid-90s. Now I think it's upper 80s, so that should be nice. There'll be tents and refreshments, ice cream social provided by 5 different sponsors, I believe. Is that what we're up to right now? Yeah, so 5 different sponsors. Some speechifying, some prepared statements, and then the actual groundbreaking ceremony for the photo op itself. Kids games, activities. So again, 1 to 3 this Saturday. So we hope everybody comes for that. The system plan, just it's pretty much the same report that I'm going to be giving to the board next week. It's in procurement right now. So we've got an agreed upon contract that's been agreed by the consultant. Now we've got it, we've agreed to the basic stuff. It's going through procurement, which means they're looking at it from the contractual language. It's going through legal review, it goes through financial reviews. Once that clears, then we would be bringing the contract to the board for approval. When that happens, we're not quite sure. And then the 14-month kind of clock that we expect for the process starts once we get that contract approved. So that's what's going on there. I can either just briefly, I want to not slap any palms or anything, but Jessica works amazingly hard to keep both our operational ship running, and she sends out emails to you all. One of them was, what do we do with the October meeting? She sent it to everybody. We only have 5 of the DAC respond, and now Ryan responded today, which makes 6. But that leaves 6 people or 5 other people that did not respond. Please respond, check your emails, respond to Jessica. We now need to discuss this as it needs to be discussed as for what goes on. But we would have liked to have been able to give Ryan a report prior to the meeting saying, hey, here's what everybody gave us their indication. So it's just an ask, please. Check the emails. If it's got a response, we'll try and make sure that we flag and make sure that it's highlighted as much as possible. But yeah, we really hate having to try and send out multiple emails, because then things get confused and we're not sure who's responding to which string and all of that. So that's the only thing I had.
So it's the vote so far.
It's actually, I think it's split 50-50. Split 50-50 on either canceling outright or moving it to the following week. So those were so yeah, you all need to discuss that. Katie just submitted her.
That you get a login.
Sorry.
Okay, so thank you, Mike, and thank you for the hand slapping. I'm one of the culprits. Open for public comment. Have we received any public comment?
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. So I just have a question, especially on behalf of the Parks and Rec Board of Milwaukee, as that I'm the chair of. Just really hoping that is there any movement with the Milwaukee Bay Park? We're really concerned about the grant funding that we worked really hard on coming to its expiration date if it's not used. So I'm just hoping that there is something to share, if not in this meeting, then in the next.
We covered it last week or last month, really, since the summary judgment is now in an appeal status. I don't have any motion that has been going on. I'm not saying that there isn't things going on, but that's the level that I'm at this point. Is while there's the discussion and the appeal going on about the method of withdrawal, there hasn't been any discussion going forward. As Heather Cook, our planning director, left our employee, we were doing the downloads and yeah, we're getting close to times on several of the grants that a couple of them we realistically needed to have started this summer for completion dates. Doesn't mean that, you know, deadlines can't be extended and things like that, but we've got a lot of pickup that would need to happen. Yeah. So I really don't have a better answer than that, because it's really, while all of this is going on, we just don't have the ability to move forward.
Yeah. And then I had a second follow-up question and just want to clarify and confirm, since this is my only second meeting here today. I know that last week or last month, we talked a little bit about the Concord Park, and I just want clarification that there are no funds that were allocated towards the Milwaukee Bay Park going to the Concord. Is that correct?
Well, yes, you're correct. There are no
Okay.
funds.
Okay, good, because we're worried.
Any other questions? Okay, public comment, is there a public comment card that's been filled out?
It looked like Thelma wanted to come up though. We didn't have a public comment card. You don't need to require that if you don't want.
We have a few people that need to step away, need to leave, so I'll go ahead and use that. Thank you. Hi, Thelma.
Hi there.
Got 3 minutes.
I know.
I'm gonna time you too. You ready?
Good.
Oh, wait till you sit down.
Wait till I sit.
You tell me when.
I don't think the microphones are actually doing anything at this point, Thelma. Sorry. We turned all of them off except that one.
It completes the look.
Yeah.
All right. You can start.
Okay,
My name is Thelma Hagen Miller. I'm a resident of the unincorporated area of Oak Grove. And I want to bring up something that nobody here even knows about when you're talking about the audit that they did on the trolley trail. Years ago, when the trolley trail was first conceived, the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District hired a consultant firm that did a plan called the Art on the Trail. And some of those art things have been there are a couple of art items on the trail currently. Art on the trail slows some people down just because. And another fellow and I are going to meet in October of this year to talk about how to identify those art, because they don't just reach out and grab you right now, to identify those to people going by on the trail. So the trail, as we know, was designed and built before e-bikes. So the conflict with e-bikes, I too would like to see not anything you enforce, but just a speed indicator. And something that says, you know, your speed is, we see them on the streets all the time, your speed is, and the preferred speed is, or whatever you want to say on the trail, whatever type of thing. And it is a multi-use trail. And as Paul said, the most used trail in Clackamas County. And the people that use it have 4 legs. You see 4 legs out there. You know what I'm talking about, Mark. 4 legs on that trail, which makes it even more complicated with the speed out there. The other thing is that the DTD, County DTD, did install 2 counters on the trail. So there is usage data on the trail. 1 counter is down by the Park and Ride, and the other one is at this Springfield Family Park. And they count 24 hours a day, and they count, hello fly, they count pedestrians separate from bicycles. So that usage data, if you go to Scott in DTD, Scott Holscher can ask, he doesn't do it, but he can ask the engineer to pull up that data for you, which would tell you a lot of usage on that trail and what time of day the usage occurs. One of the reasons we asked for the striping on the trail was because we found out that the trail is used 24 hours a day, and that came from that usage data. Thank you.
thank you, Donald. Any other public comment? All right, we'll move on to DAC member reports. Anybody have anything they'd like to report? Come on, Joel. Okay, Joel.
First of all, I wanted to let everyone know, and please share this information, that the Meals on Wheels program that's run out of the Milwaukee Community Center is investing the drivers. Meals on Wheels program delivers 250 meals daily, at least weekdaily, to residents in the North Clackamas Parks and Rec district-wide. And I think there's over 30% of the routes are accounted for right now. So even on a temporary basis, if you know anyone that's interested in volunteering as a Meals on Wheels driver, or even as a team participant, something like that, please contact the Milwaukee Community Center so you can get signed up for that. Our board has 2 vacancies now, the Milwaukee Community Center Advisory Board. So if you're interested in learning more about that, it's open to anyone in the district, regardless of your sub area. So please, if you want to talk to me or Mark or anyone at the Milwaukee Community Center, you get more information on those vacancies if you're interested in serving. Also wanted to mention that the low income energy assistance program starts in October. Applicants to supplement low income energy needs, you need to contact the Milwaukee Community Center to get information on that. And the very popular emergency firewood program, I think that may actually be starting now, but certainly by October. So residents in the district that need emergency firewood can get some of those resources. I think it's limited to a quarter or maybe a half a cord of wood at the center. Also wanted to update everyone that the mural that is being painted on the south side of the community center now looks like it's slated to begin in January, February 2024. That's a partnership between the city of Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation. So we're excited about that. There should be artist renderings coming up, I hope, in the next few months. We'll be certainly sharing that with the DAC, at least in the report. And Mike's probably going to bring this up, but and it's not directly related to the Milwaukee Community Center, but at North Clackamas Park Festa Latina on September. Never mind. I yield the rest of that. So don't steal your thunder.
No, you're good.
That is on Saturday, September 24th, though. From 23rd, excuse me. Yes, see?
Noon to 4.
Noon to 4. Very excited. I know the first year, this will be the second year, and the weather hopefully will be a lot more hospitable this time as well for that. But regardless, it will be a terrific event. So encourage everyone to please come check that out. That'll be a lot of fun. And that is it. Thank you.
And
for those who haven't heard, we have Swifts in Milwaukee this year in the chimney at 37th and Washington, the Bertman House, which is an old historic house behind the Milwaukee Museum. So it's kind of fun. You know, they did have Swifts at the Jennings Lodge School in 2021. I went down there a few times that year, and it was a bigger, I will just say, that was a bigger number of Swifts than you would see in Milwaukee. Unfortunately, in 2022, there were no Swifts there, which makes me think the school district filled in the chimney, which I think is unfortunate, and I wish they hadn't done that. But anyway, we do have Swifts in Milwaukee at sunset every day, at least for the next couple of weeks. Audubon says they were early. They started early this year, and so it's going to wind up probably earlier than the end of September. But it's a cool thing to see. Work parties returning to Minthorn starting this Saturday. Again, they're 9:30 to 12 on Saturdays. If anybody wants to come to Minthorn, and Minthorn is probably why we have Swifts, because Minthorn is a big wetland area with a lot of bugs. And the place they're roosting is just a couple blocks away. I know also October 14th in Minthorn again, and then October 28th, NCPRD, one slice of Minthorn is managed by NCPRD, and October 28th is No Ivy Day across the metro area, and there will be a big No Ivy Day work party between both NCPRD and the Wetlands Conservancy pieces of Minthorn on that day. And not park related, but just for people who might want to come, Friday, October 6th is the day we officially close down the old city hall and open the new city hall in downtown Milwaukee, and we'll have a little procession, we'll have a little few speeches, a little procession, 4 p.m. on Friday, October 6th. So come join us.
Anybody else? Right, wait, okay, district monthly report. You get 2 minutes.
The report speaks for itself. I did want to mention a couple of things that I forgot regarding Concord as far as the project update. So we did have our IGA approved by the board for the Metro IGA, the local share, the $1.2 million. And I'm also really excited, and I'm glad Alex is still here to announce that through the amazing efforts of Alex and a very competitive process, we were awarded the LGTP grant for the Concord project. So that's the local government grant program lottery proceeds. So that's another $500,000. That means that the $2 million playground is completely funded at this point. So we're very happy about that. And then the only other thing was, yes, just reinforcing Fiesta Latina in El Parque on September 23rd from noon to 4. Lots of cool vendors, lots of great music, dance instruction. It's going to be fabulous weather. So please, everybody come out. Last year, we estimated we had about 800 people. We expected to be even more this year. So
Yeah, that's nice.
that's all I had, unless anybody had anything specific in the report. Oh,
Just one thing, we're starting the communication right now, but we'll be holding our first community gathering for the Jennings Park. At the school on the 28th of September, which is a Thursday, from 5:30 to 7 p.m.
thank you, Alex. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Pretty soon, we're gonna be hip deep in community engagement with the system plan too, so everybody get ready.
All right, let's move on to, let's quickly discuss the October meeting. So what's the vote? So the idea is we can't have the meeting at the same time because pretty much of the staff are
I'm so sorry.
There will be no staff, so the idea is either to cancel or move it to the following week on the 18th, I believe. Any discussion points? I just told Mike if we don't have anything pertinent on the agenda, we take on, I mean, I'd love to have it, not love to have a meeting, but I want them to keep meeting. But if we don't have anything pertinent, let's not waste the resources. Yeah, let's not waste.
Yeah, there's nothing that couldn't wait until November, is at least right now from what we see.
So let's have a quick little discussion about that. What does everybody think?
I think if there's something pressing, I'm fine to cancel and wait until November.
David, what do you think?
Yeah, I can go with that. Of course, I mean, November will be twice as long.
No, we'll still get to a reason at a time. Yeah, because I have a problem.
No, I don't think that we need to have a meeting next month, but if we don't have a meeting next month, then I have something I'd like to bring up today then.
Okay, well, we can do that.
It's not like a super emergency, but it's something that has been on my mind that I
Well,
want.
if we all decide not to, then you want to bring that, not to
Yeah.
the meeting, then we'll bring it, you can bring it up at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Joe?
I'm fine with canceling it if there's nothing pressing currently on the agenda.
Okay, and I already asked you. Ms. Siri.
Cancel.
Okay, so now that we've canceled, the October meeting is canceled. We will need submissions for the November agenda by.
We'll send out new
Perfect, thank you.
notifications.
And then real quick, next TAC meeting, not gonna happen, November. We no longer have DAC goal adoption on our planned agenda topics. Yay. And then we are going to have on planned agenda topics NCPRD foundation discussion. And just start planting the seeds. Now, I'd like, before we close out, Ally?
Yeah, I just have a quick question regarding dog parks at the different parks that we have them at, specifically the one that's right by Milwaukee Center. And maybe this is something that I just didn't know where to find, but I'm curious around the policy around aggressive dogs. And if we see dogs attacking other dogs, is there any signage? Is there any policy? Are there any regulations that we could be enforcing or doing? Because I had a very traumatic event happen.
Animal control is who needs to be called,
Okay.
and a report. I mean, and if animal control is unavailable, call the police.
Okay, and if it was between their own dogs and they stayed in the park after and prevented other people from being able to use that, is that something that?
Again, that's
Like
still
a
it's still an aggressive dog animal control issue. Unfortunately, parks are open to all, and without having a ranger force or, any kind of enforcement, the best that my staff is gonna be able to do is go up and ask them to leave. And we try not to put them into dangerous situations if there's things like aggressive dogs or aggressive people. So even if we were contacted, we would still be saying animal control needs to be the people. And that still doesn't, even though it's not necessarily against your dogs, doesn't mean that you can't lodge a complaint against somebody's aggressive dogs. Because what ultimately would need to happen needs to be a law enforcement type of action that would prevent them from being able to come back. We don't have that ability to say you have an aggressive dog, you can't come here.
Or there's like, could it be some sort of like signage that says like, please, like if your dog shows aggression, like attack, like I guess not even shows aggression, just like straight up attacks a dog, kindly.
That's
Like,
I have 4 dogs. I've had dogs for all my entire life. I believe honestly, that's covered under kind of the type of thing.
I was very
But
surprised.
we also
when they did
know,
not.
just like on trails with e-bikers and fast bikers, there are going to be people that it doesn't matter what the rules are. If they have their dogs and they want to bring them out there, and they're going to do that until and unless somebody takes official action, which again I would start with animal control, and I don't think you need to be there to lodge a complaint. I think you can get information, call it in, and identify as much as possible. What they're gonna be able to do, unfortunately, is probably not much, but at least you start the process, so if it happens again, maybe then there's, a different response, but our hands unfortunately are pretty tied on, putting up additional signage. I believe we do have signage, is there not at either one of them?
Doesn't that park have a small dog venue and then whatever gen pop?
Yeah, there's just 2 big open areas, neither
It's
one of
not
them are kind of identified as such.
Mhm.
But yeah.
We did go over to the other park, but there's no shade.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess what do you mean by dog park? If it's not fenced in.
no.
I'm talking about the
This is
fenced-in dog
the double fenced in, actual legitimate off-leash dog park at North Clackamas Park.
Just feel like there
Oh,
could, I'd really like to explore, like, I hear what you're saying in terms of like enforcing rules and making sure that like, I hear all of that. I also am wondering about the possibility for some sort of signage, just like we were talking about how we can't enforce the bike, but we can certainly try to create some things to mitigate it, things like putting in the speed. Of course, there's no camera that's gonna say you're at a level 9, but in terms of moral and responsibility to the community, I'd really like to consider that, because it was
Well, and because the
It's
other
very
residents,
upsetting.
the other people using the dog park.
Like, I will not go
Pointed
back
to
there.
the sign and, I mean, there could have been peer pressure, I guess.
There could have been peer
Right.
pressure, there could have been an
To get out.
expectation. I could have said, hey, man, your dog just attacked your 2 own dogs just attacked each other and you sat there, like.
He was holding
The
it up in the
expectation.
air.
I'm
Yeah,
just not sure what a sign saying, is going to realistic. I agree, we need better signage out of it.
But I think that's the same argument to say that the sign saying for like educating bikers slowing down shouldn't be there then either. Is that what I'm hearing? Cause like, I feel like they're the same.
You're not gonna trap me into answering that.
Oh, yeah. I'm just-
Hard to have the animal
Yeah.
Yes,
there's
and
nothing-
that's
there's
exactly what
nothing.
I'm thinking is better etiquette signs with a direct number for animal control. To be able to report those, but it
Yeah, and I
truly
think
is,
that is
you
like
know,
peer pressure. You see the sign and then your dog just, did something and you're not leaving. And then you see someone go over to the sign to make a phone call or it exists. I just think there needs to be, I think we as a board and as NCPRD can do more. And I'd like to explore what more we can do.
I would be excited to hear ideas that you might have.
Sure.
I have a question, and do we have any policies as it relates to that? To dogs, if we're having a dog run or a place for dogs to run, obviously we're a host. So there's some liability regardless for the district, but I just wondered if what policies we do have in writing.
Well, we would default to the state leash laws and state animal guidelines.
I understand the fault, but do we have any written policies on dogs or the facilities in which we host that?
Not as far as I'm aware now. I mean,
Maybe that's a question we'll ask you, don't.
yeah,
Just so we have-
Maybe that's false. So,
again, policies are great if you can enforce what you write in a policy. So a policy would again be guiding behavior, expected behavior, but without the ability to actually invoke our own fees and fines.
empowering
Yeah,
other community members to support is
Yeah.
one of the key
I-
features.
I go to a dog park, various ones throughout the whole area, even all the way up to Washington to take my dogs anywhere, that I hear is a cool dog beach or whatever. And I repeatedly, whether it's people picking up their own poop, whether it's aggressive dogs, I am constantly correcting people's behavior. But I have that ability to do so where, I'm more aware, I guess, of I don't have a problem. Hey, your dog's acting aggressive, you need to put him back on the leash. I'm not saying you need to leave, but they need to be leashed, they need to be under control. Sometimes people will look at me and just whatever and not comply. Sometimes people will do the right thing and, oh yeah, okay, my dog's being a little aggressive, I'll put him on a leash and calm him down. But I really believe you can't make people be nice, you can't make people behave in a certain way. And as much signage is great, education is great, having resources like phone numbers to reach, those are perfect. That's why we put dog poop bags all over all of our parks, with the hope that somebody will actually use it. But a lot of them don't, as we know. I'm not trying to be dismissive of it, because I have 4 dogs. I have had, everybody knows I have a zoo in my house. I take that very seriously, but it's very difficult to manage dog parks. That's why there's lots and lots and lots of articles written every year on best practices with dog park maintenance and management. And I don't know that anybody's found the perfect solution on it, short of the ones where you pay a fee to get into the dog park and it's managed by, supervisors, but that's a different model.
I think we can have some constructive ideas.
Let's-
About this,
yeah.
because I had the same issue of my dog is aggressive on leash. And I had an off leash dog and he snapped at me and I'm like, dude, your dog should be on a leash in the dog park. And there's no signs that say this is not, anyway. So unfortunately, we are not adjourning because we did miss one public comment.
Oh.
So we're gonna open public comment up one more time for somebody online. Apologize, that was our little goof here, so. Gary, would you like to, you have 3 minutes for your public comment.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to talk to North Clackamas County Parks and Recreation District, DAC. Thank you very much. The last time I spoke to you was in person on 7/12/23. Since then, I've talked to Executive Director for at least an hour, Mike Port, and he was very helpful. Thank you. As a
You're
whole,
welcome. Thank you.
excuse me?
I said, thank you. It was a great conversation.
Okay. The staff there is great. They do a wonderful job, especially Heather Cook. But unfortunately, I've heard she has left. And She did a great job as the planning manager and development for Milwaukee Bay Park, but did such a good job. She was raised to do that overall, I understand. And Heather definitely single-handedly raised plenty of funds for all of the needs of phase 3 for Milwaukee Bay Park, I believe. Now I'm hoping the DAC can work with the board, which is the Clackamas County Commissioners Office, which I believe Savas is the only one that actually lives in the district's area, and get it so that everybody that is on the board is in the area like the DAC is. I think it'd be wonderful. Plus, if that would happen, I can't guarantee you anything. I'll bet it'd give a good chance that Milwaukee wouldn't try and leave if everybody is grouped together to do a good job for the North Clackamas County Park and Rec Board, as we've done in the past. We did phase 1 and 2 with no funds through you. Phase 3 with Heather's help, we've gotten just about everything, and maybe a small portion coming from you. But if you can work together, I think anything's possible. And if you don't believe me, I have been working on this for years and years. Just talk to Lisa there or Allie. They know me. Savas knows me too a little bit. So please do what you can to make everything work. I'm for you. Any comments? Did I lose you?
No.
Sorry.
No, just
Thanks,
wait.
Gary.
No, thank you so much, Gary. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
Do what you can.
So there's nothing left on the agenda. I don't have my gavel. Jessica. The meeting is adjourned.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Mark, did you see the pictures? Did I show you my?
Yeah.